name is Naeem O'Neill. I am a long-term survivor. I've been living with HIV for the last 33 years in December. So I would like to welcome you to this event, which we hope will be something that will be done every year, maybe not as elaborate as this, but we may, because the discussion of people living longer with HIV is a conversation that we need to start and we need to keep happening, because people need to meet at the pathways so that we can make sure that people are living longer. So I would like to first say welcome to Jared Sherman, he's from Chantel's office, Chantel Brown. Dr. Brown from the Cuyahoga Board of Health, Dr. Margolius, the director of the Cleveland Public Health Department, David Merriman from Cuyahoga County, Dr. Prakash, Cuyahoga County Board of Health. So we wanted to acknowledge the people that were in the room from different government agencies. And if I missed anyone, if you could raise your hand or wave because you would like to acknowledge that you are here at this event tonight. I don't really have that much of an opening statement because I think that the conversation just really needs to be had. And I'm very excited because we will be acknowledging long-term survivors today, which is June 5th. And I hope that everyone enjoys the presentation. I would like to say welcome to you, welcome to our dandelions, welcome to our long-term survivors, welcome to anyone that wants to support and help people to live longer with HIV. The next thing that I would like to do is to, we're gonna have a presentation from Leon Bibb. I did that again. Mayor Bibb, who will be giving us his welcome. Thank you. Oh my God,
Today, for the first time in our city's history, Cleveland officially recognizes June 5th as HIV Long-Term Survivors Awareness Day. This day is more than a date on the calendar. It's a tribute to the resilience, courage, and enduring spirit of those who have lived with HIV for decades. Many were diagnosed before effective treatments existed, enduring not only the physical challenges of the disease, but also the profound stigma and isolation that came with it. Among these survivors is Robert Toth, a Cleveland native who has lived with HIV since 1988. Robert's unwavering advocacy has been instrumental in bringing this day of recognition to our city. Today, nearly half of all people living with HIV in the United States are over the age of 50. And as they age, long-term survivors face unique health challenges, including comorbidities and the long-term effects of early HIV treatments. To every long-term survivor in Cleveland, we see you. We honor your journey. Your strength has paved the way for progress and hope. Let this day serve as a reminder of the importance of compassion, awareness, and continued support for all those affected by HIV. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andre Brown, and I am the Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for the Cuyahoga County Board of Health. And today I have been charged with giving a few remarks about the positive impact that people living with HIV, particularly long-term survivors, the positive impact that they have had on public health overall. So that's what I'll be talking about today. I'm going to try to keep it brief. I promise, Lita, as much as possible. So those who may not know, I actually got my start in public health over about 23 years ago doing HIV prevention work. I was a young, excitable freshman at the University of Michigan, and just happenstance, was just assigned to work on an HIV prevention program that we had happening at the university. And so for me, it was a really new thing. I didn't know a lot about HIV, but I was excitable, and someone told me to do something, and I did it. Over the course of time, I've learned a lot about HIV prevention, its connection to what we talk about as the social determinants of health. So things like racism and housing and education and those types of things. And it really drove my passion for public health. And I bring that up to say that, in 2002 when I started, I could have never imagined where we would be today in terms of HIV prevention and treatment. The evolution of drugs, the evolution of prevention methods, how we understand people's whole totality and how we need to address that within our interventions and treatment has really grown over the last 23 years. And all of that is thanks to people who are living with HIV. We know more about how to treat HIV. We know more about the side effects, what works, what doesn't work, the long-term impacts of drugs, comorbidities, all of those things, because people who are living with HIV, and particularly long-term survivors, did clinical trials. They did the trial by fire, right? Just living and having those lived experiences. And all of those things that have helped us to understand more about how we can, better serve people who are living with HIV and ultimately address the threat that HIV poses to the public's health. And so we have a very ambitious goal of eliminating HIV and getting to that 95, where everyone knows their status, where people who are living with HIV are on antiretrovirals, where people are virally suppressed, and all of those things that we know, all of those medications and drugs that have helped us to get to that point are because of people who are living with HIV. Without them, we wouldn't, and their willingness, their spirit, their fight, without those things, we wouldn't be where we're at in the fight against HIV. But more importantly, it also helped us to learn how to be better people and better public health and medical practitioners. So we learned more about how to be compassionate, how to be accountable, how to engage the community. So that idea of nothing for us without us really came from a lot of the work that was happening within the HIV community as well. Other things like perseverance and activism, but also hope in uncertain times. And certainly we're living in some uncertain times right now, right? And so there's no fear, right? We should not have fear. We should know that we are a collective force, that we can move mountains if we work together and love on each other and be humane. And all of that we learn from people who are living with HIV who simply just wanted to live. And so we really appreciate and thank you all for those lessons that we continue to carry forward. But you have to also do more than thank people with your words. You also need to thank them with your deeds and actions. And so HIV is every one of our business, right? And so there are things that we can do to say thank you, right? By ensuring that people who are living with HIV, long-term survivors, have the best chance to age with dignity and grace and good health. And how do we do that, right? We think about how do we make sure that social and medical encounters that they have are free of stigma and discrimination for the people who are supposed to be treating them with the most dignity and respect. How do we make sure that health and social services meet the needs, the unique and varied needs of people living with HIV? How do we make sure that our HIV laws are modern and reflect this current day science, right? How do we make sure that people aren't being unduly arrested and jailed, right? How do we make sure that people continue to have access to antiretroviral medications so that they can continue to be healthy and be those long-term survivors that we're here to honor? So there are certainly things that we can do in our deeds and actions to thank the people who have led the charge for not only HIV prevention and treatment, but also for public health. And we want to think about how we all can make sure that those things happen. And so I saw the brother right here. He must have read my mind because I wanted to bring up the idea of Sankofa, right? Which is this idea that you have to know where you've been to know where you're going. So none of the threats that we're facing today, none of the executive orders, the fear tactics, the terrorism, none of those things are new. We've been here before. We know how to get through these things, and the way that we've been able to do it is together. So I encourage us all today to stand together, to fight for the rights, the health, and the humanity of the people that we're here to serve and honor today, which are those long-term survivors. And I just want to again say thank you all for leading the charge. And I hope that we can move forward positively and collectively. So thank you all. Sorry, I was about to step away without doing the second part of what I was supposed to do. So it is now my honor to introduce one of our community members, a long-term survivor of HIV and a member of the UH Dandelion program, Mr. Robert Toth.
Well, thank you all for being here today. It's kind of a cloudy day, but we're going to get through. Now, my name is Robert Toth, and before I continue, I really have to thank Brian C. Jones. If it wasn't for Brian, he is half of this event. And if it wasn't for Brian C. Jones, this would more likely than not be happening. And what I'm about to do, I think Brian would like. So before I start, I'd like to start by talking about the elephant in the room. On the count of 3, in whatever voice you choose, your soft voice, your inside voice, your outside voice, I want you to yell, speak, or whatever, the word AIDS. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. AIDS! Okay, now we got that elephant in the room out of the way. Now there are no wrong answers here. Someone raise their hand, tell me how that made you feel. Anybody? How did it make you feel to say the word AIDS? Okay. Well, I'll start. For me personally, it made me feel icky. Here we are 40 years into the pandemic, and I'm living with AIDS for 36 years, and I still feel icky when I say AIDS. So there we have it. My name is Robert Toth. I'm an HIV long-term survivor of AIDS. Now, living with AIDS, I remember when AIDS was truly icky. I was dating Bernie at the time in Columbus, Ohio. And one day we got a call, hey, Bernie, Robert, can you come over? This is little Dan, I need you now. Well, he was my boyfriend. I would date him for like 3 weeks. So it was, you go, someone says they need you. So we went. So there we were, 2 grown men changing a grown man's diaper and bed linens because he had soiled them. His partner could not move this man. He was over 6'2". I'm 6'2" on a good day. And he was incapacitated, living with or dying of AIDS. We told Dan, sit down, we'll take care of it. At the time, I was a buddy volunteer in Columbus, Ohio, so I saw what AIDS did up close and personal. It was not pretty. It was icky. So we did what we could do, and I have to thank our other gay men and lesbians and our drag allies in helping us come together with our collective humanity, helping those in need. They didn't ask, well, what do you need me for? They just said, they heard, we need you. They showed up. And that's kind of what like today is, we show up. As a long-term survivor, I remember being spat upon. I was slapped because I disclosed my HIV status to someone who I thought was interested in me. Turns out, I guess they weren't interested in me. But that's the law. If I know my HIV status, I must disclose it prior to any activity whatsoever. And has been spoken previously about the HIV Criminalization Act. I could have been arrested and made to file as a registered sex offender. Now the HIV criminalization law stops people from getting tested, increases the stigma. We don't say the word AIDS. And we are here today honoring HIV long-term survivors. So for me, by the very fact that I'm an HIV long-term survivor, I'm living with AIDS. And my family doesn't want to hear it, and that's okay. But back in the day, let's remember that Ryan White was burned out of his house simply because he had a disease. He was burned out of his house not once, not twice, but I think 3 times. And this is a young boy who had nothing to do. And I remember being yelled at on the street. Hey you gay, got AIDS yet? G-A-Y, ha 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 ha. Those nasty, dirty jokes were around when I was 29 years old and newly diagnosed as AIDS. And it wasn't fun. I remember the angry red crab, the biohazard sign, on hospital doors with food trays left outside. The nurses weren't even feeding human beings food. Not that they could eat it, but you come in, you serve them. That's part of what us body volunteers did. And then the gowning up. If you remember the first days of COVID, all the doctors and nurses were gowned up. They looked like astronauts coming in the room. Well, imagine that you know you have a neurological disease, that you are prone to hallucinations, and this very real person looking like an astronaut comes into your room, and you are suffering from progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, PML for short, and you think you're losing your mind, but this hallucination is taking blood from you or whatever. And now here I am, a 36-year survivor, living and aging with AIDS. And it is my hope that we implement an aging with HIV infrastructure in our region. Let's capture individuals who initially come into HIV care. Let's get baselines of neurocognitive function, cardiovascular function, kidney and liver, and other functions, mental health, food, and housing security assessments. This is possible that upon intake, we see the individual as a whole, not just they're HIV positive. They're HIV positive and they can't find housing. They're HIV positive or have AIDS and can't find dental services. Way back when, mortuaries, funeral homes did not have to take bodies that had HIV. And that is what the living room, which was a program of the center, was for. We were a resource to help people bury their dead ones because mortuaries and funeral homes were turning them away. We have come a long way, but we still have a far way to go. Now let's not wait till we overburden the already overwhelmed nursing system. Let's capture the individuals, what they need at point of service. You need HIV services, HIV medications. You broke the stigma by coming into the office and saying, I'm HIV positive, I want to be on medication. And the U equals U message has been talked about. So I'm talking about one-stop shopping. Capture the baselines, capture the events before, and be proactive rather than reactive. An infrastructure for aging with HIV and AIDS. those of us with HIV are living longer with AIDS, but add aging to it, and how are we, as a Title I region, addressing those who are aging with HIV and might have to enter a nursing home situation where their pronouns will not be honored, where they may be non-binary, they may be transsexual, they may not have gone through the operation, they may be fluid, gender fluid, because that is how we've come today. We've come a lot farther in recognizing our own identities. March 21st, I was diagnosed, kind of like Joe Biden, with bone cancer. Other long-term survivors face equally life-threatening issues. Again, I implore the healthcare establishments to at least establish an infrastructure for aging with HIV. If not now, when? So with that, I will close. And again, thank you, Brian Jones. I know you are here in spirit. And with that, I thank you for listening. And next up, we have Kyle Maddox of UH Dandelion Group, and he'll explain that.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle Maddox, and I was born with HIV. Hello, my name is Kyle Maddox, and I was born with HIV. At first, it was just a sentence I didn't really understand as a kid, but whether I understood it or not, it shaped every part of me. I didn't ask for it, I didn't choose it, but I live with it and I carry it, and now I speak on it. Growing up, I was always told that I couldn't be like other kids. I wanted to be normal so badly. I wanted just to blend in, but I was also told, I'm sorry. Growing up, I was always told that I couldn't be like other kids. I hated that phrase. I wanted to be normal so badly just to fit in, just to blend in. But I was told something else. My parents told me that there wouldn't be anything that their child couldn't do. And they meant it. They sacrificed so much to keep me healthy, to keep me whole. I remember the doctor visits, the blood work, the checkups. So many times I had to take my blood, I got used to it. I was asking questions that most middle schoolers wouldn't ask. But instead of brushing me off, my doctors answered me. They was like, oh, that's a really great question. That's a smart question. They made me feel seen and heard. Now, every time I go to the doctors and they check my pulse, they're always saying, you're very calm. And I say thanks. Being in the hospital is like being in my second house, my second home. But the world outside isn't very understanding. In elementary school, they try to put me in special education programs to keep me away from the other students, to isolate me. Not because of my ability, but because of my condition. Like I was something to be feared. In middle school, I trusted a friend with my truth, and that friend told to school. Soon, I wasn't just Kyle. I was that kid with HIV. And by high school, the whispers turned into questions. Aren't you that kid with AIDS? Doesn't that mean you're gay? Wait, you can't have sex, right? They said it loud, they said it without thinking. But I answered them because I had done the work, I had done the research, and I remember the questions I asked when I was young, the answers I earned. So I cleared up the miseducation, the myths, the stigma. But life threw another curveball at me. I ended up being convicted of a felony, not because I hurt someone, but because Ohio passed a new HIV law. My ex used it to take me to court, and under the Ohio Revised Code 2903.11 Part C, they turned my existence into a crime. Let that sink in. It's not just the virus you fight, it's the laws, it's the judgment, it's the silence. But I'm still standing because people think HIV defines a life. but I'm here to say it doesn't. I define my life, and I'm still writing it. To anyone out there living in silence, I want you to hear me. You are not broken, you are not dirty, and you are not alone. You are a person full, complex, and worthy, and your story, like mine, is far from over. We come a long way. There's our treatment, there's knowledge, and there's power and truth. But we still have work to do. We have to break the stigma. We have to see people, and not see people for people and not their diagnosis. We have to listen without judgment. So I'll keep telling my story. I'll keep showing up because maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to know that you're not the only one. And if anybody else have any questions, you can meet me after this. I got my PhD, my public high school diploma, and thank you for being here. And next, I would like to call up Dr. Margolis up to the stand.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. My name is Dave Margolis. I'm the Director of Public Health for the City of Cleveland. I'd like to say some remarks, and then we're going to get to proclamations. County Executive Renee, you also have a proclamation? All right, so we're going to call you up at that portion. So I never had the chance to meet Mr. Brian Jones, but everything I've heard about him has just been so inspiring. He was a fierce advocate for social justice, for fighting stigma around HIV, for fighting against those laws that Kyle just described that unjustly punished individuals living with HIV and continue to punish individuals living with HIV, and spreading the word about you equals you, undetectable equals untransmittable. So I want to thank Mr. Jones for butt dialing Mr. Toth. Was that the story there that inspired this event? And so thank you, Mr. Toth, for taking Mr. Jones' last wish and running with this event. I also want to thank the team at the Cleveland Department of Public Health, Commissioner Lita Wills, of Health, Equity, and Social Justice, and her whole team is here. An event like this doesn't happen just, we don't just show up and the chairs are all here and the monitor's all here and it's on and all those things. So a lot of work went into this, and so thank you to Commissioner Wills and her team. So I also want to recognize the incredible advocacy from the newly reformed ACT UP chapter here in Cleveland, and Gil Kudrin in particular, and everybody here. When I started out as a doctor, my first job was in San Francisco. I worked at the San Francisco General Hospital. I worked at a place called 5A. Some of you will know that 5A was the first hospital ward in the country that took care of individuals with HIV and with AIDS. And the reason at the time it was the first and only hospital that did that was because every other hospital said no. It was exactly as Mr. Toth described, with the hazmat suits and all this just nightmare situation. But 5A was the first place where the nurses and doctors and phlebotomists and everybody who worked there would take off their gloves and hold the hands of their patients, because they knew science. They knew that was okay, and that touch and that love mattered. And I say all that in the context of ACT UP, and that we cannot go back to that. But unfortunately, people in the White House and the State House are trying to take us backwards. If Medicaid were to be cut, as is currently proposed by the U.S. House of Representatives, but not Representative Chantel Brown, represented here by Jared. If it were to be cut as proposed, millions of individuals, both with HIV and without HIV, would be without medication, without their doctors, without access to hospitals. in meeting with the public health emergency preparedness team and thinking about how to plan for these scenarios, they said to me, Director, this would be the greatest threat to public health that they have faced in their 20-year careers. 20-year careers, so including COVID, bird flu, the cuts to Medicaid that are proposed right now would be the greatest threats to public health. Silence equals death, as you can see on the shirts. And at the City of Cleveland, and I know the county as well, we won't be silent. And we have not been silent. And we will be a convener to bring all of the stakeholders together to make sure that we are ready to re-implement all of the policies that were in place before Medicaid was expanded. The financial aid, the payment schedules, all the nonsense that we had to do before Medicaid was expanded. We'll be ready to do those things once again. But we should not have to do this. We should not be faced with this scenario. We should not have to go backwards. So please continue to speak up. The protest today was beautiful, and I know that it will not end when we all moved in at 5 o'clock. Today is about honoring that protest and that advocacy, but also about those we have lost and those who remain with HIV today. They've seen their rights under attack again and again. And as long-term HIV survivors, we stand with you to fight with you, but we also look to you and elevate you because your voice is what matters most in this moment. So now, we've got some proclamations. So I'm going to turn it over first to Jared Stewart from the Office of Representative Brown, who's going to present a proclamation, and then I'll invite up Derek, Tina, and Tony in just a moment.
Thank you, Doctor. Hi, yes, my name is Jared Sherman. I am with Congresswoman Shontel Brown's office. Very honored to be with you here tonight. Unfortunately, the Congresswoman's schedule prevented her from being here today, but she did write a resolution in honor of this event and this important day. So I'm going to read some of it now for you. Whereas June 5th, 1981 marks the date of the first reported case of what would later be identified as AIDS, a date that now holds profound historical and emotional significance for millions affected by HIV across the world. Whereas HIV Long-Term Survivors Awareness Day is an annual observance that honors the strength, resilience, and enduring contributions of individuals who have lived with HIV for a decade or more and have transformed the landscape of care, advocacy, and education. Whereas this day serves not only to recognize their survival, but to raise awareness of their ongoing medical, mental health, and social support needs, as well as the disparities that still persist in access to care and community services. And whereas long-term survivors have been the forefront of grassroots activism, peer support, and policy change, working to ensure that HIV response is grounded in equity, compassion, and scientific integrity. And whereas the City of Cleveland is proud to host this year's HIV Long-Term Survivors Awareness Day observance, reaffirming our commitment to honoring lived experiences, fighting stigma, and ensuring dignity and care for all people living with HIV. Now therefore, be it resolved that we recognize and uplift the voices of HIV long-term survivors whose courage, advocacy, and perseverance continue to light the path forward towards health justice. Be it further resolved that we call upon our healthcare institutions, government agencies, and community organizations to invest in survivor-centered programs, trauma-informed services, and long-term support systems. And be it finally resolved that this resolution has been entered into the record with deep respect for the lives, contributions, and continued journeys of HIV long-term survivors in Cleveland and beyond.
All right, and now I'd like to call up friends and family of Brian Jones, Derek Barnett, Tina Marbury, and Tony Elmore, and I will present a proclamation, and County Executive Ronayne will also present a proclamation to you. You want to present yours first? Work you in there.
Thank you, Dr. Margolis. And hello, everybody, my neighbors, my friends, my family members, and I want to say hello special to my neighbor, Robert. Good to see you again. And to those that serve us in the tables behind us, thank you for the services you provide every day to our community. I think Dr. Margolis said it best. We are leaning in. I'm paraphrasing him, but we are staying together. And through the tough times in Washington and down in Columbus, we're sticking together. We are Cuyahoga. We're one family. I say hi to my HHS director, David Merriman, and our team. I just want to tell you that Cuyahoga County continues to stand with our entire community. And I won't say everything in this resolution because Congresswoman Brown's representative covered a lot of it, but I do want to say Cuyahoga County's been a long-standing partner to persons living with long-term conditions of AIDS. And I wanted to say that we will remain committed. About $150,000 a year comes through Cuyahoga County to the community through the organizations that we talked about. And probably we need to find a way to double down and bring more. I'll admit that. Budgets tell a lot about policies, but I'm going to say it over and over again, as I said yesterday. I don't want to get too political on stage because I got more persons to honor here, but for $600 million to go to a single sports facility, think about what that takes away. As David just said, 50,000 Medicaid cases could be served. People, not cases, names of people that are in jeopardy of losing their Medicaid extension benefits. 50,000 persons could be served with those $600 million. We could build 12 community hospitals in the state of Ohio with that $600 million. We could employ 15,000 teachers with that money. So listen, we're going to keep leaning in and talk about where is the moral compass when it comes to budgeting in Columbus and in Washington. But it does reside here, and we're a resilient community together that will stay together. I want to say that we are proud partners also at our Department of Senior and Adult Services. We are a Ryan White provider. One of our DSAS nurses serves long-term survivors, and that funding ensures that we can prioritize residents and their special health care needs and services that would not be available without Ryan White funding. Our Jobs and Family Services Department assists with Medicaid applications, and we hope we continue to maintain those Medicaid applications. But times are tough, and we will lean in together to continue to make our case that Cuyahoga County matters, and this is our entire family. I want to say to you, family, I do have a resolution that I want to share with you, and that is in honor of June 5th is National HIV Long-Term Survivors Awareness Day. 1.2 million persons around the country, and that's the size of all of Cuyahoga County. The entire population of Cuyahoga County are living with long-term AIDS, and that's an entire county here in Cuyahoga County across the country. 300,000 who came in with AIDS before therapies of 1996 really advanced medical care. So kudos to our survivors, and special recognition to those who are not with us, but they are never forgotten. They are never forgotten here in Cuyahoga County. We are one family. And so we say, and I'll just wrap this up, a lot of whereases that Congresswoman Brown's team brought to you, but I want to say that whereas National HIV Long-Term Survivors Awareness Day allows Cuyahoga County to remain committed to fostering an inclusive and supportive community for all people living with HIV, and it recognizes the vital contributions of the HIV long-term survivors in advancing awareness. That's you. Thank you. Policy change. That's you. Thank you. And support systems. That's you. Thank you for continuing to lift up persons living with HIV. We honor you. We uplift your voice. I think public leaders have to show up, and that's why I'm here today. I'm with you in lifting up a voice, and a voice that really tells the story of persons' perseverance, their pursuit of healthcare, equity, dignity, and justice. So now therefore be it resolved that I, Cuyahoga County Executive Chris Ronayne, hereby proclaim today, June 5th, 2025, a National HIV Long-Term Survivors Awareness Day here in Cuyahoga County. Thank you for your steadfast efforts. We love you.
All right, and I now have a proclamation, which I won't read because it's private, that I'll pass on to the family as well from the City of Cleveland, Mayor Bibb. Great. Here you go, Mr. Todd. Yeah, thank you. All right, thank you so much to Derek, Tina, and Tony. Thanks so much. Thank you. Derek is going to say a few words. Excuse me.
No problem. Just a few. But fortunately for me, many of you in this room know Brian C. Jones, my late partner, and he was the catalyst, or one of the catalysts, for getting this Day of Recognition off the ground. But even for those of you who didn't get a chance to know Brian Jones, you know his work. Brian passed away this past December, but he had been diagnosed with HIV in 1984. So he actually lived more of his life with HIV than without it. Brian would often say that I'm not a person who's dying of AIDS, I'm someone who's living with an HIV diagnosis. And he spent the rest of his life after his diagnosis advocating on behalf of people who were also living with an HIV diagnosis. You know his work because he was one of the founding ambassadors of the U=U education campaign, which is global now. You also know his work because he was one of the people who helped get the Ohio health modernization movement off the ground. And that's an organization that advocates to update Ohio's draconian HIV criminalization laws. Brian went on to found the Sankofa HIV Initiative, which is an organization that advocates on behalf, it's an organization by and for people with HIV. So everyone who works as a part of Sankofa is someone who's living with HIV. And we do this work using a model that Brian himself developed. It's called DIRT advocacy. And DIRT is an acronym: direct, inspiring, reachable, and teachable. And so it's about going beyond the grassroots into the dirt to reach people where they are and talk to them about HIV and the importance of it. So it's fitting that one of his last acts of advocacy, literally on his deathbed, he made that call to Bob to establish Long-Term Survivors Day here in Cleveland. And I am really proud and humbled to be able to accept this on his behalf. So thank you.
Thank you so much. At this point, we would like to recognize any long-term survivors who wish to be recognized, either by standing, waving, if you choose to be recognized, any long-term survivors of HIV. All right. And closing us out, my good friend, Cedric Taylor.
How y'all doing? Today we honor 4 distinct groups of HIV long-term survivors. First, there are those who acquired HIV before 1996 and the introduction of highly active antiretroviral therapy, or HAART. Between 1981 and 1996, being HIV positive was seen as a death sentence. These are our longest term survivors, and they lived through immense fear and loss. Second, this includes those who lived with HIV more than 10 years and were diagnosed after 1996. While they have access to more treatment options, their experiences were shaped by stigma and discrimination. The third group is known as dandelions. These individuals are those who were born with HIV or acquired it as a young child. Many of them are in their 20s, 30s, or their fabulous 40s. They embody the resilience of our community. And finally, we must recognize our community of allyship from our friends and family, lovers, caretakers, and frontline healthcare workers who step up to take care of individuals living with HIV and have experienced great loss themselves. And together, these groups represent the evolving landscape of the HIV epidemic. And together we continue to organize and advocate for our rights and our well-being. In Cleveland, organizing the HIV treatment, prevention, research, and care was from hospitals to the living room, from AIDS Walk to dancing in the street, from the task force to AGAP, from the free clinic to the open house, from Healing Touch to Healing Weekends. In 2022, a coalition of older HIV activists issued a Glasgow manifesto, a call to action to focus on care, quality of life, and empowerment for long-term survivors. Part of that statement reads, equitable health outcomes for aging and older people living with HIV will only be possible with work in collaboration. Those of us with lived experience and living expertise must be at the center of every decision, any decision, or of action taken responsible for our self-determining needs. We call on healthcare providers, researchers, community-based HIV organizations, frontline providers of aging-related services, and public policy and decision makers to work in partnership with us to fund and implement our calls to action. June 5th is not only an awareness day, but it is a call to action. Long-term survivors must remain at the heart of our HIV community, and that there are needs. Our needs and stories lead us forward. You've carried a lot. You've pushed through days that didn't feel fair, systems that failed you, and that didn't show up for you, and moments that tried to knock you down, and yet you are still here. Today we see you. We celebrate your strength, your presence, and your stories. This isn't just about how long you've been living with HIV, it's about how your life, how you lived it, and you continue to live boldly, proudly, loudly, and at your own terms. And let's be clear, this isn't just survival, this is power, this is legacy, this is love in action. Thank you.
I'm sorry, before you all leave, I need to do what I was asked to do. which is just to mention our Ryan White Planning Council. The Ryan White Planning Council, if you are aware, is a body primarily made up of people who are living with HIV, who really helps us to make decisions about what HIV funding programs should look like. So by law, we are required to have this planning body to tell us, right? So whether we have $2 or $2 million, Ryan White is going to tell us where to spend that money. So it's an excellent opportunity for folks who are living with HIV to really help shape the landscape and the approaches that we continue to engage in as it relates to HIV prevention and treatment. So I do have flyers. So if you are interested, please come and see me afterwards and we can talk about it. But it is a great opportunity, and I just wanted to make that plug. So thank you all for letting me come back up here again.